All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of the Weekly Gridiron. It's a podcast that talks about the NFL every week. We got scores, we got predictions, all the above, the whole shebang. Let's get right into it. We are your hosts, Adam,
Dante,
and
Luke.
All right, guys. Let's get right into it. Let's start with some Week 2 predictions. And for our first game, we've got the first ever Thursday night game on Amazon.
Ugh.
That's right. We're starting out on Amazon this year. Al Michaels and I believe Kirk Herbstreit are the broadcasters. And for our first Amazon game, we've got a show. We've got the LA Chargers heading to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you want me to start out with my pick?
Do your thing.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a shootout. And I think I'm going to go with my gut here. I think Mahomes is just better than Herbert. Chargers might be the better full team on paper, but the Chiefs are the Chiefs. So I'm going to be going with the Kansas City Chiefs at home in a very close game.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think the Chiefs are just a different animal at Arrowhead and unbeatable at times. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the Chiefs here.
Boys, I'm going to go for a clean sweep. I'm picking the Chiefs as well.
Wow, okay.
This past week, week 1, Patrick Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns. And he's already on the list of, I believe I saw on Instagram today, it's the 10 quarterbacks with the most 5 touchdown games in their career. He already has 6. This week was his 6th. And he has played in hundreds of less games than everybody else on the list. Until I see anything worse from him, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are just too impressive not to pick.
I think that's a fair bet. We're starting out with a clean sweep, Kansas City. But moving on, we've got a big game. In fact, 2 of our 3 favorite teams are featured on this matchup. For those of you who don't know, Luke is a Patriots fan. And for our second game, we've got the Patriots heading to now called Acrisure Stadium to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both teams had crazy Week 1 matchups. Well, Steelers mainly, but we will get into those when we talk about the recaps. But let's go with a pick. Dante, I'm going to start with you for this one. Who do you got winning this game?
Now, I know the thought here is, TJ got hurt, Cam Hayward got hurt, Najee got hurt. And, yeah, those are big question marks. But do not forget, we are in Acrisure Stadium by the North Shore. Pittsburgh's coming out with the W, going 2-0. I apologize, Luke, but I got to roll with my boys.
All right, Luke, I'll have you go next. Who do you got winning?
Yeah, I really just can't, in good faith, pick the Patriots for this game. I saw some things I loved, and I saw some things I hated from the Steelers this week. But,
Agreed.
But more than not, especially in that first half, it's just, it would be too foolish of me to pick the Patriots here. I'm not going to start out the show with an obvious bias. And Matt Jones is a little banged up. The Patriots, which I'll get to, with their no coordinator strategy, Kendrick Bourne being benched, there's just so much uncertainty around this team so far for so little time. I really have to go with the Steelers.
Sorry, Adam.
You're good.
It's not going to be a blowout by any means. It's going to be one of those one-score games. And I could really see it going either way. I just think Steelers at home, banged up, Mac Jones, tough week for the Patriots. I just think the Steelers have more momentum coming into this week, and yeah, that's why.
I'm going to go with a clean sweep on this one. I'm sorry to do it to you, Luke, but I am also going to pick the Steelers to win this game. I wasn't a fan of how the Patriots operated in week number 1, and with Mac Jones' possible back injury, I don't have much faith in the team in this matchup. I know there's the possible injury to TJ Watt, but the Steelers all around, I think, are the better team, and I think they're going to take care of business. It's going to be a close game, like Dante said, but I am going to take the Steelers as well to win this game. All right, moving on. This one will feature my favorite team. I'll start this one out if that's all right with you guys. We've got the Carolina Panthers heading into MetLife to take on the New York Giants. This game is at 1 p.m. next Sunday. And it was a rough Sunday for the Panthers for a little bit. The Giants had a great Sunday. We'll get into that later on, as I mentioned. For this game, I think it's going to be another close matchup. I'm going to pick my Panthers to bounce back. I'm going to be biased, and I'm going to say Carolina gets the dub. It could be close, but I think the Panthers will scrape out a win in New York next Sunday. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. Both teams kind of have a lot to prove, but also both teams don't really have a lot to lose. I'm not sure how this game's going to go. I feel like it's going to be one of those games that ends up being completely lopsided for whatever reason. It's unpredictable. You know, you're not sure what Baker Mayfield you're going to get out there. There's multiple versions of Baker Mayfield. We know what we saw this week, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'll go Carolina, although I must say that's not my most confident pick of the week.
Understandable. Dante?
Now, we all saw how the Giants performed. Once again, we'll get into that later. Saquon Barkley, pretty solid game.
Yes, sir. Love to see it.
That made us all happy.
Oh,
Of
absolutely.
course.
You know, Giants played well, but you got to think they deserve to lose that game. Titans, past couple years, they've been known to blow games with missed game-winning field goals. Game-losing field goals, I should say.
Is that how it happened? I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
When I went into my living room, I just saw the Giants won. I didn't see how it actually happened.
Yeah, missed field goal by the Titans.
Speaking of which, and we can get to this, but what was up with kickers this weekend?
Man, I have no idea.
I don't know.
It was,
But anyway, who do you got winning, Dante?
I have the Panthers winning comfortably. By
Comfortably.
by at least a touchdown, I'd say.
All right.
I think
All
Baker's going to come out firing.
I like
he's going to
it.
walk into MetLife, and he's going to ball. So
Sounds good. All right. Moving on to game number 4. We've got the New York Jets heading into Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Browns coming in with a win on their record. The Jets coming in with a loss. This will be the second of, I believe, 3 or 4 games started by Joe Flacco. I can't remember.
Yeah, around
But
there.
It's basically the battle of the backups. It's Joe Flacco against Jacoby Brissett. And the Browns, behind their quarterback, just looked like too good of a team for me to pick New York last week. So I am going to roll with the Browns here in this game.
Yeah, as much as this pains me to say, I think it will be a close game. I think Joe Flacco, he's played the Browns a lot in his career, but not against these Browns. So, yeah, I think Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are going to carry that Browns offense and that Browns O-line. I think the Browns are going to come out with a win here.
Sounds good.
I don't think it will be close at all. I have the Browns walking in there and walking out with a very easy win. And in fact, my hot take for this game is that the Browns defense will finish as a top 5 defense on fantasy this week.
Okay.
We all liked Joe Flacco last week because he was playing against the Ravens. Everybody wanted to see him pull out that victory against his former team. That obviously didn't happen. Nowhere close to that happened. The magic is gone from that team. The Jets are overrated this year. I don't know how people have them winning 8 or 9 games.
I don't get it either.
The Browns, this does not say anything about them. They should easily win this game, and if they don't, even if they win in a close game, I think that says more about the Browns than it does about the Jets.
Fair.
Fair. All right. Next game, we got the Colts and the Jaguars. Maybe a rematch from last year's Week 18 game. Dante, I'll start with you. Who do you got winning this game?
Now, Colts, you had a rough game this past Sunday. Jaguars, you also had a rough game, but I say the Jaguars' performance was better. That being said, the Colts are the Colts. Jonathan Taylor is Jonathan Taylor. With that, I'm rolling with the Jaguars this week. I'm rolling with the Jags to win at home because rarely do they lose to the Colts at home. Look at the past 3 or 4 seasons. Jags don't lose to the Colts at home. So, yeah, I'm rolling with Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk.
Rocking with Duval.
Rocking with Doug Peterson. So, yeah, Jags get the win.
I am also going to go with the Jaguars.
Wow,
That
okay.
is going to be my upset of the week. I think Jacksonville, I feel like this is a trap game for the Colts. They had a rough week 1. Jacksonville, they also lost in week 1. But, like you said, the Jags get it done at home against the Colts. So I'm going to take them to win.
Yes, sir.
I cannot possibly let this game become a clean sweep. I have to go with the Indianapolis Colts here.
I don't blame you one bit.
I don't think either team is particularly impressive at all. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah, true.
First off, let me say yawn. I am not going to go out of my way to watch this game.
Very true.
But
I don't think any of us are.
when it comes down to it, if this game doesn't end in a tie or something, and I think that it will either be a Colts blowout or a very close, low-scoring game, it's going to come down to who's just better equipped to not make bigger mistakes. And Matt Ryan is a quarterback who won't win you a lot of games, but he doesn't make big mistakes like, say, Carson Wentz did many times last year. And I I just have to go with a team that has Jonathan Taylor. It's just something that I have to do. I cannot let this become a clean sweep on this show.
Imagine the Colts tie again. And
They
they start the year
0-2.
0-2.
I would love it if all of the AFC South continued to have 0 victories next week, which is just hilarious.
Wait, they're all 0-1, or
The Texans
they're all
and
winless?
who did they just play?
Texans and Colts tied.
And the
Jags and Titans
Jags
lost.
and Titans lost.
Yeah.
Nice.
None of them have a win yet. In fact, it's the same in the NFC West, I think, right now. The 49ers and Cardinals and Rams all lost, and the Seahawks haven't played yet. So none of them have a win either. Craziness. Anyway, let's move on. This, I think, could be a good game. We've got the Dolphins and the Ravens at the bank next Sunday at 1. I don't know what you guys are taking. Both teams had good Week 1 performances. The Dolphins beat the Patriots and the Ravens beat the Jets. I got to rock with the home team again. I'm taking the Ravens. I think it's going to be really close, but I think Lamar and the Ravens are going to get it done.
That's a understandable pick there, but I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm rolling with the Dolphins here.
Okay.
I think Tyreek Hill had a solid game this past Sunday. I think I don't have the strongest faith in Tua, but I think he can go in there with the weapons that he has. Jalen Waddle also had a good game. I didn't see how Mike Gesicki did. I didn't watch this game fully in depth, but yeah, I think the Dolphins are gonna pull out a little 3-point upset here. So yeah.
All right, Luke.
I must tell you that Mike Gesicki had 1.1 fantasy points this past week.
That's why I didn't see him.
He's a player that's on the trade block, and he's a player that I don't expect to be very, what's the word for this? Impactful going forward in that offense. I would just expect him to be kind of a non-factor unless they need him for red zone targets. But about this game, I have the Ravens winning. I think that the defense will present a better challenge to the Dolphins than the Patriots did this past week. The Patriots are flustered without a defensive or offensive coordinator for that matter. They didn't really have any good momentum at all. I think the Ravens will come in at home motivated in this game after a good win. And I think Lamar will put in a good performance. I think they'll give Tua some trouble, but I also think it's going to be a good game with hopefully some high offense. I want to see some Tyreek Hill highlights. I want to see some Lamar highlights, but I am going to pick the Ravens in this game.
Solid.
Good pick. All right, moving on. We've got a divisional matchup. The Buccaneers and the Saints. These two have been a rivalry, I'd say, ever since Tom arrived in Tampa. Maybe before that, but specifically ever since Tom arrived. We know the story with Tom Brady. He returned to the NFL after calling his retirement for about 40 days. He came back. I don't think his wife is too happy with him right now, but
Right.
that's a story for later. But for my pick, there's a story about this matchup. Since Tom Brady arrived in Tampa Bay, these teams have played 5 times. 4 times in the regular season. Since that started, the Saints are 4-0. With that being said, I'm not going to ride with history. I think the streak ends. Give me the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road.
Solid.
I had you there for a second, didn't I?
A little bit.
Kind of.
We are at Caesars Superdome. We are in New Orleans, so the Saints, it's tough to examine how they played this past Sunday.
It was a little bit of a rough game. They had a rough time with the Falcons.
It was, but I like the Bucs and I like how they played this past game, so I'm going to roll with the Bucs here. It's hard to bet against Tom Brady. It's hard to bet against Mike Evans and even the Bucs defense for that matter. So, yeah, I'm going to roll with the Bucs here.
I think that it is way too easy to pick the Saints. I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to.
Oh!
That's fair.
Because
That's fair.
Last night was honestly a quite boring cap to what was a very eventful day in football.
True.
With that Cowboys-Buccaneers game. And maybe this is a byproduct of the Cowboys not posing much of a challenge, but I did not see very much of anything from the Buccaneers offense. Tom Brady just basically did what he had to do. He wasn't particularly impressive. Of course he was because he's Tom Brady. but Chris Godwin is a little banged up. We're not sure. Is he going to play? Do we know that yet?
I have no idea.
We don't know that yet. Maybe we do.
They've got plenty of receivers behind Godwin, though.
But
True.
the Saints, they did have some trouble with the Falcons. But what I will say is that they just love playing the Buccaneers. For the past couple of years, and even in history before that. They just do. And I liked what I saw from Jameis Winston yesterday. I really liked what I saw from Michael Thomas yesterday. That flew very under the radar. He, I believe, had 2 touchdown catches, both on AJ Terrell, which makes that so much more impressive.
Wow.
So until I start to see some more from the Buccaneers, they're not a team that's very easy to pick against, and I'm almost not sure why I'm doing this, but I'm picking the Saints.
Fair.
That's a solid prediction.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on. We've got the next game at 1 p.m., the Commanders and the Lions. We know the Washington football team. They are now called the Commanders. I think this could be a very close game. I'm going to let you guys start with your pick because, believe it or not, I really don't know for sure who I want to take yet. So I want to see who you guys say.
Yeah, I'll go with this one. I like how Carson Wentz looked this past Sunday. I like how Terry looked. But most importantly, I loved how Jahan Dotson
Yes, sir.
from Penn State,
Love it.
That's what you love to see.
the sleeper first-round pick,
Love it.
absolute beast. I'm going to roll with the Commanders here to win by at least a touchdown. So even though it's in Detroit, the Lions, they don't really have any home field advantage. I'm just going to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm going to roll with Washington here.
Luke?
Okay.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not really sure still. The Commanders got a fine win against the Jaguars this weekend. The Lions posed a very real challenge to the Eagles, who I believe are a very good football team. So, I'd almost like to say tie here. I'm not going to.
That'd be funny.
I'm going to say the Commanders, just because we all know the Lions look decent on paper. They have some very good offensive pieces. A very young team. But I just have this gut feeling that Carson Wentz will perform well, and for some reason, the Commanders are going to easily beat the Lions. That could be wrong. But that's just what I'm feeling. I don't know if the Lions are going to be quite as good yet. I think they could grow a lot as a team, but I think they have a lot of growing to do. Whereas the Commanders are a young team as well, but they just seem a little bit more poised. They seem a little bit more grounded. And for now, because they have the win under their belt this week, they're riding high. I'm going to ride with the Commanders.
Nice.
I think that's fair, and I'm going to go with the clean sweep. I'm going to take the Commanders here. I thought about it. I was debating taking the Lions. I think this could be a close game, sort of a trap game for Washington. But like you guys said, I like how Carson Wentz played in Week 1. I liked what I saw from Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin too. I think I'm going to take the Commanders in this one, but I think it'll be close. Next game we got to predict is another divisional matchup, but it might not be as close of a game as the Bucs and Saints would be. We've got the Seahawks traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The San Francisco team that lost Week 1, and Trey Lance did not look that great, but we'll get into that. However, this time around, I just can't pick Geno Smith. I think Trey Lance is going to rebound, and I think the 49ers are going to get a win here at home.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. However, I do think Trey Lance is very overrated at this point. He's very unproven. I just think the Niners in general are very overrated right now, especially in that, besides the Seahawks, obviously, which happens to be the team they're playing. I don't know. They're like number 3 in the NFC West right now for me. So, yeah. But, however, I am going to roll with the 49ers here.
Luke?
I have to roll with the 49ers as well. It's not quite as easy to say because at the time of this recording, we haven't seen Seattle play tonight. It's Monday. But this isn't very hard for me either. I don't think Trey Lance has to play very good. I think the rest of their offense can pick up a lot of the slack that may come from his mistakes. He's still very unproven. Overrated isn't a bad word to say. I don't know if I've completely ruled him out. I also didn't watch that game very closely. But even if he doesn't play very well, they have a backup who will come in and not make very many mistakes. This is a very easy game to pick. I'm not going to lie. It's the San Francisco 49ers, and it's not particularly close.
Absolutely.
All right. Next game we've got to predict. That was, I forgot to mention, the first game of the 4 o'clock slate, or as I would say, the best slate of
The
Sunday.
best slate in football.
All right, next 4 o'clock game, we've got the Atlanta Falcons heading to SoFi Stadium to take on the LA Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champs, who had a rough week 1, though against the Falcons. I think they'll easily rebound. Give me the Rams, and I think this could be a blowout.
Yeah, this is going to be, like Luke said about that game before, I'm not really going to tune in to watch this one. It's going to be a blowout. Marcus Mariota versus Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. I'm forgetting people.
Bobby Wags?
Bobby Wags.
I mean, you could go on for quite a while.
Dude, I can name everybody on this Rams defense, and they would destroy Marcus Mariota. Though Mariota did look good this past game.
Yeah.
The Rams, especially at SoFi. Like, it's a no-brainer.
True.
Yeah, I don't know why I have a very strange feeling that this game could be closer than it really should be, but that doesn't change my pick at all. This is Rams 100% all over the way, every single day.
Absolutely.
Imagine Falcons win.
It's happened before. It's happened before. We've been so sure.
Any given Sunday, boys.
Hey, Falcons have beaten them in the playoffs before a few years ago.
And I must say, I'm a big 1 o'clock slate guy.
Are you?
That's fair.
I like the
solid.
1 o'clock slate, especially this week because most of the games that I cared about were at the 1 o'clock slate. But I just find myself getting a little bit, tired of just sitting in the same spot on the couch when it comes to, 6 o'clock and those 4 o'clock slate games are fully underway. I just, need to get up and move around. They become less exciting to me.
You know, that's very fair.
I'm a big 1 o'clock slate guy.
All right. Next game we've got to predict. This one could be good. We've got the Arizona Cardinals heading to Allegiant Stadium to take on the Las Vegas Raiders, 2 teams that lost in Week 1, looking for their first win of the year. And I'm going to go with the team I like. I love Derek Carr and Davante Adams in this matchup. I think that connection is going to work really well against the Cardinals defense. I'm going to take the Raiders at home to get their first win of the year.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Raiders here. Davante Adams looked unstoppable against the Chargers.
Of course.
I mean, you could argue with me all you want, but I think this is the consensus. Davante Adams is the best receiver in the league. So, yeah.
I would not argue with you.
Especially against the Cardinals. I mean, besides Buda Baker, who do they have in their secondary?
I really don't know.
Crickets, dude. Nobody. Nothing. Yeah, give me the Raiders here. Derek Carr is going to go off.
The Chiefs couldn't answer that question either because they didn't even pay attention to who was on defense. They just threw it right over their heads.
Yeah.
The Cardinals have a lot to prove. A lot of people are writing them off this season, and I'm not going to join that pack yet, but this is going to be a Raiders victory. The Cardinals got destroyed by the Chiefs. I know the scoreboard was still... I mean, the Chiefs put up a lot of points. The Cardinals held their own at some points during the game, but 5 touchdowns versus the Cardinals. They don't have a much easier matchup this coming week with Davante. Okay, the sound just cut off for a minute. Not completely sure what happened here. I'm new to this. These guys handled it. So what I was saying, I believe, was Davante Adams is like Dante was saying, he's the best wide receiver in the league. It does not get any easier for the Arizona. Oh my God, what's the name? Cardinals. Why was I blanking?
Hey,
yeah,
it happens, man.
Why was I blanking? Okay, this is not an easy matchup for them. It's going to be bad. It's going to be an ugly start to the season. They're going to regret that Kyler Murray money. The internet is going to bash them, in my opinion. This is going to be a Raiders win.
Did Dante and I say it happens, man, at the same time?
I think so.
That's how you know we work well together. We did this all last year.
And it happens, man.
Moving on, we've got the Texans heading into Mile High to take on the Denver Broncos. The Texans look good in Week 1. I will give them that.
I picked that win. I picked the Texans to win. While I didn't get it, I'm proud of that pick.
Yeah, I would be proud of that pick too. We haven't seen Denver play yet. Remember, we are recording this before the Monday night game. However, I mean, I feel like this is a matchup that you can pick Denver to win without watching him play. It's Russell Wilson taking on the Texans. That being said, I'm going to go with Denver at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's Russell Wilson versus the Texans. Dude, this is another easy, no-brainer game. Boys, finish it for me. Broncos country.
Let's ride.
There you go.
All right. Does anything else even need to be said, or can we just move on?
I'm riding with Broncos country. I'm just simply not letting myself overthink this.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Moving on, we've got a good game here. Despite the injury that happened to Dak on Sunday night, we'll get into that. We've got the Bengals taking on the Cowboys, 2 teams that lost in week number 1. Again, we will get to that. Who are we going to pick to win this game? I'm not going to overthink this. Dak is out for a few weeks. Cooper Rush right now is their starter. Cooper Rush is simply not better than Joe Burrow. The Bengals, I think, are simply a better all-around team than the Cowboys. That being said, give me Cincy on the road.
Cooper Rush not better than Joe Burrow. That's a hot take, Adam.
Oh, very, very.
No,
After this week, actually?
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know. I'm going to go back to what Adam said. Cooper Rush is not better than Joe Burrow. You know who's not? You know who else is not better than Joe Burrow? Mitchell Trubisky.
Do you mean he is better than Joe Burrow?
No, I'm saying he's not better than Joe
okay.
Burrow.
I didn't know if you were owning up to that.
I think
Oh, wait, I think I might know where you're going with this.
the Bengals O-line was a travesty. And they have to stop Micah Parsons. They got us I'm just saying,
Yeah.
at AT&T Stadium, if Cooper Rush is okay. Matter of fact,
He just has to game manage.
yeah, exactly. I'm rolling with the Cowboys at home to upset the Cincinnati Bengals.
Is this your upset of the week?
Yes, it is. It happens to be.
Wow.
Unless you count the Jags one, but I don't think that's not really an upset.
All right. So I'm completely unsure about this game. I think that the quarterback matchup is a mismatch, obviously. And I think that Joe Burrow wants to come out here and torch a good defense because of what happened this week. But without T. Higgins, I'm just not sure.
That's another thing,
That
too.
is another thing.
I just don't know.
And with also Joe Mixon getting banged up a little bit.
Yeah. I think, wow, this is a tough pick. But I'm going to stick with my gut here. I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Very fair.
Dallas was not impressive last night. And to be fair, in the first half, Cincinnati was not good at all. But they almost won this game multiple times after having no business winning it.
True.
So,
True.
and we saw this, actually, I'm definitely going to Cincinnati. We saw this in the playoffs last year. I believe it was against Tennessee that Joe Burrow was sacked, 7, 8, maybe 9 times?
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it was, and he still won. I'm definitely going with Cincinnati this week. The O-line might have a horrible game. I don't really think it's going to matter too much. I'm going with Cincinnati.
True.
All right, next game. This is the Sunday night football game next week. We've got the Bears taking on the Packers. Chicago won their first game of the year, and Green Bay lost their first game of the year. But I don't really think that means anything in retrospect when it comes to this matchup. Aaron Rodgers has owned the Bears in the past. He owned them last year, and he's going to prove this year again why he still owns them. Give me Green Bay at home. This is going to be an easy victory. Rodgers is going to go off.
As much as I want to pick the Bears here, I am going to have to go with the Packers. But the Bears look good, dude. Justin Fields look good. That whole Bears team, the receiving corps, Darnell Mooney, everybody on that team, even the defense, looks solid. So, I don't think it's in Lambeau. I'm going to take the Packers by at least a touchdown. But the Bears are going to play respectively, I think.
I must say, I'm not... Maybe this is like something that many people will disagree with me on, and they'll say, why are you even thinking this much about it? But I'm not letting myself be too impressed by the Bears' victory because of the elements. Because I sat and watched every single second last year of the game, Patriots and Bills, where the weather was so bad that Mac Jones only threw 3 passes. I know that wasn't exactly the case, but when it comes to games like that with such extreme weather, I try not to pay too much attention to getting overhyped about who the winner was. With that being said, as Aaron Rodgers says, I still own you. All my life, I still own you. I think that the Packers are going to own the Bears. And people are going to say, well, the Packers looked horrible last week. Their wide receiver situation is an absolute mess. Aaron Rodgers is fed up. Do you remember what happened last year? First week, Saints-Packers. Saints win 33-3, I believe it was. This kind of thing just for some reason happens. And I think that Aaron Rodgers is not somebody who is going to just lose to the Bears and start 0-2. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm picking the Packers.
All right. We've got a double Monday Night Football slate next week.
Nice.
First game we've got is the Titans heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills, a team that won in Week 1 and a team that lost in Week 1. With that being said, who do I pick? I'm going to rock with the team that looked better in Week 1. And in my opinion, that is clearly the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills, I will replay my thoughts a little bit. all day on Thursday leading up to the kickoff game of the year, I heard everybody and their mother picking the Bills to win. And I was getting kind of annoyed. I was like, where is all this Bills hype coming from? I know they're a great team, but I don't think they're like a Super Bowl winning team by any means. To beat the Rams on the road in SoFi on championship banner hoisting night. But the Bills came into LA and took care of business. And I sat there thinking, this team might be for real. So I'm going to take them to get their first home win of the season this time. And I think they'll take care of a Titans team that struggled in week 1.
Yeah, 3 words. Give me the Bills.
4 words. Bills, 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 Bills. I would not want to be the Tennessee defense this week. Anybody playing the Bills this season is just not going to have a good day.
Yeah.
This is very easily the Bills.
And you're saying that as a Patriots fan that has to play them twice every year.
Oh, I'm not looking forward to that. I mean, my confidence after this week is way down. I can get into the Patriots later. I could go on forever about that.
Hey, I'm a Phillies fan. That's how I feel when we play the Mets. It's never fun, but...
LOL Mets.
Yes.
The LOL Mets. But the LOL Bills are going to destroy the Titans this week.
Yeah. All right. Final game we got to predict for week 2 is the second Monday Night Football game. It is the Vikings going to Philly, Lincoln Financial Field. I think that's what it's called. To take on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to have you guys start. It's another game where I kind of need to think a little bit before I make my prediction.
This is definitely a tough one. I mean, the Eagles looked unstoppable this past Sunday, but so did the Vikings. I'm going to roll with Jay Jetta, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Cook, and the entire Vikings team to go into Philly and get the win here. Now, I could definitely see the Eagles winning this, especially with Jalen Hurts at home. But I just think the Vikings receiving core is just too good. And, yeah, I'm going to roll with them.
So what's interesting to me is I'm looking it up. Vegas has Minnesota with the odds. I'm going to cash in my upset of the week here, and I'm going to pick the Eagles. I wasn't sure about this game, and I'm not even sure you can call this an upset, because both teams look too good to be true this week. But the Eagles, with A.J. Brown, I think are probably just going to make less mistakes than the Vikings. Plus, this is Monday night, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, we all know Monday night Kirk Cousins is must-see TV, but not for all the best reasons.
Fair.
If I'm remembering correctly, I don't think he has a very good record on primetime.
Yep.
So this is going to be an interesting game. I hope that there's a lot of fireworks in this game. It should be a great one to watch. We're spoiled with this matchup. With that being said, the birds are going to fly. The Eagles are winning this one.
Yes, sir.
After considering this matchup, thinking about it, I'm going to roll with Dante.
Yep.
I'm going to take the Vikings on the road. I'm going to roll with those Vegas odds. The Eagles are a great team. A.J. Brown is a great receiver. Jalen Hurts is an underrated quarterback. However, you all are forgetting something, and that is Justin J. Jettas Jefferson is that guy. And I think he's going to replay his week 1 and go off in week 2 and help the Vikings, I think, get a narrow win on the road, but I think they're going to take care of business.
There's a lot of Justin Jefferson for Offensive Player of the Year talk already. It's week 1.
Hey, he was my pick, just saying.
That he's going to be a fun player to watch. He's on track to become one of the best wide receivers, if not the best ever. So I'm looking forward to this season while he's still young. It should be fun.
All right. For our next little segment, Dante, as you did last year, do you want to give your good, bad, and ugly for this week?
I do. Just give me 1 second to pull this up. All right. Good, bad, and ugly. Basically, I'm going to take you through who I think is going to play good, who I think is going to be who's going to play bad, and who I think is going to play a little underwhelming. So, with the good, I'm going to roll with Jonathan Taylor against the Jags' run defense. Though I took the Jags to win, I think Jonathan Taylor is still going to have a pretty solid game against them. Then I have Justin Herbert versus the Chiefs' defense. Once again, I took the Chiefs to win. With Justin Herbert, it is going to be a shootout, and he's going to have a pretty solid game.
That's still for the good?
That's still for the good. I'm 3 for the good, 3 for the bad, 3 for the ugly.
Great.
And for my last good, I have Terry McLaurin versus the Lions secondary.
Interesting.
I think Terry McLaurin. This could also extend to Jahan Dotson. I think Terry McLaurin is.
We hope.
Yeah, true. I think Terry McLaurin is just too good, and he's going to torch a lot of guys over there. And for my bad, I have Mac Jones / Brian Hoyer versus specifically the Steelers pass rush. Steelers looked phenomenal against Joe Burrow. I don't see why they can't look phenomenal against against Mac Jones / Brian Hoyer. I think it's going to be Mac Jones if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it should be. He's a little bit banged up with his back after this game, but I think it's just the kind of thing that needs like a stretch and an ice bath, and he'll be good to go.
Yeah. And then my second bad, I am going with Davis Mills versus the Broncos D. Not really a surprise there. And another not a big surprise, we talked about it a little bit later. I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Marcus Mariota versus the Rams D. He's going to be horrible. And for my ugly, I'm going to roll with Tua against the Ravens. Really not anything to say there. And I mean, Tua's Tua. Not really doing great so far. Even though they did get the win, Tua's Tua. Need I say more?
Tua's Tua.
Tua is Tua.
And
Tua turned the ball over.
Very true, which he probably will do. Then for my next ugly, I'm going to go with Jared Goff against the Commanders. Jared Goff is Jared Goff. Once again, don't have to say much. And lastly, I'm going to go...
Or Josh Knapp.
No.
We have a friend named Josh who...
Josh is probably going to be hearing this. So
Yeah, he'll be hearing this.
I hope to have him on.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then
He's a Lions fan.
Yeah. For my last ugly, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray. He played ugly against the Chiefs. He's going to play ugly against the Raiders. That's it. So.
Yeah.
All right. For our next little part, Luke is going to debut his segment, which you call what? Stardom Situm for fantasy?
Stardom Situm. A fantasy segment. I'm going to go over the four main positions here. Quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I'm going to give you one name for each position to start and one name to sit. So I'm actually going to start this off with a little bit of breaking news. It's something we all kind of knew, but I'm just pulling it up now. That Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott is officially having thumb surgery, and the best case scenario is he will be back late October. Worst case scenario is late November. So, with that being said, let me start Stardom Situm with the quarterbacks.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
You may.
So, you said late October. I just want to emphasize, that is week 8. It's
Sure.
late October. Week 7, week 8. It's going to be a long year for Dallas. Okay, go ahead.
So, the QB I'm starting this week in fantasy, and when I say that, it doesn't mean I'm personally starting them. I'm just giving advice. It is Carson Wentz. He scored 27 points against Jacksonville, something he should have done, but that's technically much better than he was supposed to perform. That's a good sign. 27 in fantasy, that's good. I believe that's maybe top 5 QBs this week. He's playing the Lions week 2, who just faced Jalen Hurts. There was a lot of offense in that game. Jalen Hurts had over 20 points. I expect to see more of the same from Carson Wentz, who is a name that is going to go under the radar, but I would start him this week 100%. There's no reason he should have a bad game versus the Lions defense. We're going to start with a hot take here for my situm. I am sitting Tom Brady this weekend. Tom Brady underperformed versus Dallas, and like I said earlier, maybe that's a byproduct of just not having to do a whole lot to win, but they were snuffed on multiple first downs, especially in the first half where it was such a field goal game. He underscored fantasy-wise against Dallas, and simple as this, he's playing New Orleans, who is his kryptonite. And in fantasy, I'm just having a hard time trusting that. And I know it's Tom Brady. Why even bother with this kind of thinking? But until we see a good game from him this year, he's a 45-year-old man. He was still zipping passes last night, but I want to see a good game from him before I comfortably start him without second-guessing myself every week. So moving into the running backs, this week, start Antonio Gibson. He played very well versus Jacksonville. I'm high on the Commanders after this week in fantasy. They all played very well. Antonio Gibson, I believe, had 20 points, something around there. The Lions let Miles Sanders have around 20 points himself. I expect Antonio Gibson to have the same kind of production. I expect him to have a good game. Simple as that. And this weekend, this is not really a hot take, but I am absolutely sitting Travis Etienne. He completely underperformed in fantasy for where he was getting drafted, which was in the first couple rounds, honestly. If I'm remembering correctly. He dropped multiple touchdowns. I just would not touch him this week. For wide receivers, this one is very, very simple answer. I'm starting Tyler Boyd. T. Higgins is hurt. It is pretty much that simple. The Cowboys secondary, they're going to have lots of bodies on Jamar Chase this week. We even saw in the game against the Steelers, Jamar Chase first target, I believe, came in the second quarter. And he did not have this crazy game. So Tyler Boyd is a really good second option for Joe Burrow. And he could be a really good option, especially at flex in fantasy this week. And as a Patriots fan, this hurts to say, but absolutely sit Kendrick Bourne. He was a sleeper pick this year in fantasy. Probably went at the end of most drafts, but he's still somebody who had some impressive games last year. This past week 1, I don't know what it was. Maybe he stole a sandwich from Matt Patricia or something, but he got benched until the fourth quarter. He was on the field for 2 snaps. He was targeted once and caught that target for 41 yards. I pray to God the Patriots have their heads on straight from here on out and play the man. I could not imagine what caused him to get sit this week, but he got sit. He got sat? Sat. He got benched. You should bench him too until we see that he's actually going to be able to play. Moving into the tight ends, I would start Zach Ertz this week. He put up 11 in a loss this week against the Chiefs, which is good numbers for a tight end, especially with guys like George Kittle out. And Darren Waller, I believe, was questionable this week. I think he played. But it seems like more than ever there's such uncertainty surrounding tight ends. So I would start Zach Ertz because he's playing Vegas, who this past weekend let Gerald Everett have 14 points on fantasy for the Chargers. Somebody who's rostered in less than 20% of leagues, I believe. So I would start Zach Ertz this weekend. And I am sitting Kyle Pitts. He has continued to underperform fantasy-wise. Of course, he has all the talent in the world, but I believe he had 3 points this week. I just can't. You can't play him until he actually has a decent game. He's not going to get the targets he needs. I believe he has not scored a single touchdown on American soil in his career yet in the NFL, which it just goes to show he's an unreliable fantasy option until the Falcons can actually give him the targets and the attention that he deserves. So, despite his talent, sit Kyle Pitts this week. And that concludes Start 'em, Sit 'em.
All right, guys. So we had a little thing there. Dante had to go to class. You know, we're college students. We got lives outside of the show. We got classes to go to. So, with that being said, as they say, the show must go on. So Luke and I are going to carry you through the rest of episode 1 while Dante's in class. He did tell me his Monday Night Football picks. We will announce that on the show. But to Dante, thank you for everything you did for the first show. With that being said, let's continue. We're going to start by recapping week number 1.
Actually, first, I wanted to say especially thank you to Dante as well. Thank you to my brother Adam, who's right here. We're not done with episode 1 yet, but we're going to be putting this on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, however you call it, Spotify, wherever we can put it. So the listeners on there might not know that we all go to Penn State.
Yes, sir.
This was a radio show they did for Penn State last year, and this year we were doing it independently of Penn State, and they are including me, to which I am very grateful.
Yep. All right. So let's go over the week 1 games. We're going to start with what was on Thursday night. We had the Bills and the Rams, the kickoff game to start the year. And there's only one way to say this. I mean, the Bills looked fantastic. The Rams, they really did not. I mean, Josh Allen was great. He did have 2 interceptions, but he had 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, struggled. He did have 1 beautiful touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp, but he did throw 3 interceptions. Darrell Henderson carried the rushing for the Rams. Cam Akers, man, I feel bad for any Cam Akers fantasy owners. He was nowhere to be found.
I knew it.
3 carries and no rushing yards.
RB2 in that offense.
Definitely. Cooper Kupp had a good game for the Rams. Stephon Diggs had a good game for the Bills. Other than that, I mean, Bills' defense went off. What else can you say? Bills just took over in this game.
So, yeah, this game was quite the wash the Rams really did not look great. I believe it was probably just Super Bowl hangover, but we'll see. The Rams have an easy matchup coming this week, so they should bounce back. But the Bills, man, the Bills looked good.
Yeah, for sure. Next game we got to recap here. This is starting in the Sunday 1 o'clock slate. We had the Eagles getting the very narrow 38-35 win over the Detroit Lions. From what I saw, the Eagles pretty much dominated this game. The Lions had maybe some garbage time scores. They had 14 points in the fourth quarter, and the Eagles didn't score. The Eagles scored all their points in the second and third. They had 24 in the second and 14 in the third. Jalen Hurts, he had a good game. He had 243 yards. He didn't have any passing touchdowns, but he did have a rushing touchdown. And as you've said in the past, Luke, that running back by committee, they had Miles Sanders.
It's dangerous.
He had a rushing touchdown. Kenneth Gainwell had a rushing touchdown. Boston Scott had a rushing touchdown.
Did Jalen Hurts have a rushing touchdown?
He did.
Yeah.
And then you had A.J. Brown. He didn't score a touchdown, but he did have 10 receptions for 155 yards. The man went off in his first game with his new team. Moving on to the Detroit side, we had Jared Goff. He had 2 touchdowns, but he also had a pick. DeAndre Swift had a touchdown. Jamal Williams had 2 rushing touchdowns. And then you had Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark each got a touchdown of their own. I mean, the Eagles just looked better in this game, and it showed. Hopefully, for the Lions' sake, they can rebound next week. But for Philly, man, I mean, great start to the year. That's what you want to see out of that team that is looking to make an NFC East title run this year. That's really all you could say. A great start from them.
Yeah, the Lions looked okay at times. They almost made a little bit of a comeback. They had a charge at the end. They fought well, which from the Lions fans I know that's what they were happy with. That's what they were kind of expecting. The Eagles, man, they looked good. They looked like the team we thought they were going to be. High offense, although I do think that they should work on closing out games a little better. But that is a team who could absolutely win this division and who I expect to win that division.
Before I get to the next game, I do have some news, another Cowboys update, that safety Jaron Kearse is expected to miss a few weeks with an MCL sprain. And the good news of that is the ligament remains intact, but he is going to be out a few weeks along with Dak. So Cowboys injuries are starting to stack up. Anyways, on to the next matchup. We got to recap. We got the Bears pulling off an upset victory over the 49ers, 19-10. Some Bears fans were thinking this could happen, and I didn't see it, but I was surprised. They got the win. Trey Lance, although he did have 164 yards passing, did not look very impressive in his first game. He did throw an interception. He was 13 for 28. Deebo Samuel had a rushing touchdown. That was the only touchdown the 49ers got. Then for the Bears, although Justin Fields did have 1 interception, he was 8 for 17 with 121 yards passing and 2 passing touchdowns. And then Khalil Herbert had a rushing touchdown along with the Bears' touchdowns caught by Dante Pettis and I'm not even going to try and pronounce his first name, but the other St. Brown brother, Equinemius, I think, is how you say it? Huh? Yeah, they are actually. They are brothers, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's brother, who plays for the Bears, he caught a touchdown. In fact, I saw it was like 3 minutes apart in between the 2 games, which I thought was really cool. So, yeah, the Bears got the win. It was just a torrential downpour in that game. I thought it was so funny at the end when they clinched the win that Justin Fields and the Bears players ran to the end zone and made it like a slip and slide.
It was a slip
kind
and
of
slide.
thing. It was really funny and it was really cool to see. I mean, they earned their win, so they had the right to do that. So good for the Bears.
So I must stop real quick. We have some more breaking news.
Okay.
There is more news surrounding the T.J. Watt situation.
All right.
Which we are all very much so on the edge of our seat for.
Yes.
So the Steelers and T.J. are weighing options surrounding his pec injury. Those options being rehab only or surgery. But we do have some good news that Watt may have only partially torn his pec, and it could lead to, best case scenario, just about a month out.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
much better news.
That is much better news than what Steelers fans were expecting, and that could have been a season-ending injury.
Could have been disastrous.
Yes. I mean, T.J. Watt is one of the most electric players in the NFL. You hate to see a guy like that go down. Speaking of that, we've got the Steelers game here to recap, and man, I wish Dante was here to recap it, but that's okay. But the Steelers, this was an incredible game. They took down the Cincinnati Bengals on the road in what was just a slugfest throughout. The Steelers started out amazing on defense and offense. You had Mitch Trubisky, he had 1 touchdown passing, and that was to Najee Harris. But other than that, they got some field goals. They got some pick sixes. Minka, I believe, had one.
Yeah, he was the first.
And then on the Bengals side, man, Joe Burrow, 4 interceptions, and that was along with a fumble. So they had 5 turnovers, the Bengals. But were able to bring this game to overtime. He did have a passing touchdown to Jamar Chase, but Evan McPherson got the extra point blocked by Minka Fitzpatrick. Then you go to overtime. McPherson missed a field goal. Then Boswell missed a field goal. Then just at the end, Boswell made the field goal to give the Steelers a 23-20 overtime victory, just avoiding the tie. And the Steelers start out the season in the win column. The Bengals, maybe they had a little bit of Super Bowl hangover as well. They start out the season in the loss column. Luke, any thoughts on this game?
So, I love you, Dante, but since you're not around at the moment, I feel a little bit more free to say that we all know what happened in the first half, but man, the Steelers, it was not good how they almost lost that game. The
True.
Bengals had no business winning this game after the first half. And let me be honest with you, the Steelers lost this game. If the Bengals had their healthy long snapper, Evan McPherson made 2 field goals. But since they don't, he missed them both. And that's the way it goes. In the NFL, you're never going to be fully healthy. And I think it was, I don't know which one of the commentators said it, but while I was listening to the game, watching the game, they said that positions like long snapper, not having those healthy, it doesn't catch up with you until it does. And it caught up with the Bengals this game. The Steelers should have blown the Bengals out. Nonetheless, I'll stop being negative. That was a very, that was a very impressive one. Defense was fantastic, especially in the first half. Hopefully TJ Watt's okay. But if he is, he and Cam Hayward, man, what a duo. Still, forever, it seems like they're never going to quit. Minka Fitzpatrick was great. I mean, when you look at the list of players right now that deserve Defensive Player of the Year, you might have 1, 2, 3, and 4 are Pittsburgh Steelers. Joe Burrow did not look very good. They were flustered. They were frustrated in Cincinnati, no less. That is a statement win for Pittsburgh.
For sure.
Mitchell Trubisky looked just fine. He did not make any big mistakes, which was something that people were worried about. He will be just fine this year. In fact, to the point where I'm not sure we're going to see Kenny Pickett. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. I'm sure eventually we will. Nothing's ever perfect. But Mitchell Trubisky was just fine. I don't think he threw a single interception. The Steelers didn't have a single turnover. That's exactly what you want.
Yeah, he didn't have any interceptions.
That's exactly what you want. 0 turnovers, 5 turnovers forced. I mean, it does not get any better than that. My only negative comments come from this should have been a blowout. But I digress. It is still 1-0 in the win column.
For sure, for sure. Moving on to our next game, we have the Dolphins taking down the Patriots 20-7. Luke, you're a little more of a Pats fan, so I'll let you recap this one.
There's not much, yet so much to talk about with this game. Tua, I hate saying this. He's 5-0 against Bill Belichick. Tua is. Oh man, it stinks. Tyreek Hill obviously was good. Jalen Waddle was good. That's going to be a nightmare for defenses this year. As long as Tua can get them the ball, which is a big if. But fine, I won't spend most of this game's recap trashing the Dolphins, because why should I? The Patriots, they looked bad. We did not look very good. I was worried about this. I saw this coming from a mile away. In training camp and in preseason, the offense did not look very good. Excuse me. We lost our defensive leader this past offseason, J.C. Jackson, because obviously we did, because we weren't going to pay him. Because why would anything ever go well for us after Tom Brady left? I don't know. But no coordinators, just the worst possible idea any football team could ever have.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of that.
Oh, Matt Patricia was calling the plays, and we scored 7 points. Who's surprised? I'm certainly not. Mac Jones is good, but he's not, right now, he's not Josh Allen. He's not Patrick Mahomes. I mean, come on. He's not like a top 10 quarterback right now. I'd say he's around 15 or something. But I know that number's just going to keep going down until he can prove himself even more, because people aren't going to be rooting for him. We need something more to happen. This team needs a fire to be lit. And I just don't see that happening, and it's really frustrating. This team is a team that is not very talented on paper, has a lot of players I like. I like our rushing attack. I loved it last year. I like our wide receiver room. It's not very flashy, but I think it's actually not quite as bad as people think it is. But, I mean, come on. With guys like Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, we just can't be doing this. Bill Belichick, you would think he wouldn't allow something like this to happen. We just got embarrassed. We're just going to keep getting embarrassed. I don't know. Next weekend, I'm not looking forward to the game against the Steelers. Their defense could make us look very bad. That's all I have to say.
I could see all that.
And I do believe that the first Mac Jones interception was absolutely pass interference. And who knows, maybe if that gets called, that puts us first and goal. It becomes a 7-0 game. Then what happens? You know, that could have been a completely different ball game, but you can't get hung over. You can't get hung up on these things. We still absolutely lost this game. We did not deserve to win at all. Credit to Tua and the Dolphins. It's not a fun game for me to talk about right now.
I understand. Yeah. I mean, Dolphins, they just played the better game. I mean, there's not really much else to be said. But moving on.
All right, let's speed through a couple of these games.
Yeah, this one's more for me to recap a little bit, and I'll speed through it. We got the Browns.
Okay, the Panthers you can talk about, but some of the other games like
Colts,
Texans,
we'll speed through them. Yeah, we got the Browns taking down the Panthers 26-24 in Baker's said revenge game. I didn't get to watch this game a lot. I was trying to watch it on a stream, and the stream was kind of cutting out. But I mean, I did follow it. The main takeaways are. This defense has trouble stopping the run, and Kareem Hunt had 1 rushing touchdown and showed it. I mean, look at this. Nick Chubb, 22 carries for 141 yards. Kareem Hunt, 11 carries for 46 yards and 1 touchdown. They even had 2 other rushers. Anthony Schwartz, 2 carries for 20 yards, and Jacoby Brissett had 4 rushes for 10 yards. This defense has trouble stopping the run. There's no other way to say it. They also have some issues in coverage. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 6 receptions for 60 yards. Kareem Hunt got some receptions. Amari Cooper did not have the best game. I think that was J.C. Horn that locked him down, thankfully. But looking at Baker's stat line, he was 16 for 27, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception in his first game with the Panthers. The game started out a little sluggish, a little slow. We were down, I believe it was 17-0. Or it was 17-7 at halftime, and the Browns made it 20-7, but we ended up coming back. We got a touchdown, and we took the lead, actually, only for Cade York, the Browns, I believe, rookie kicker, to make a 58-yard game-winning field goal. I mean, what can he do there? So, yeah, the game started off a little slow, but I will give this team credit for being resilient, having perseverance, coming back, still fighting, eventually taking the lead and just falling short. I think that's a lot better than getting blown out your first game. It's not fun losing your first game of the year, but to make it close and make it exciting, you can't really complain there. You just got to hope they rebound next week. Moving on, we'll start going a little quicker for these. We've got the Colts and the Texans ending in a 20-20 tie yesterday. This was just crazy and something not a lot of people expected. I thought the Colts were going to blow the Texans out of the water. And they scored 3 points in the first quarter and did not score again until the fourth. And the Texans scored 10 points in each quarter in between. But, I mean, to tie to Houston in your first game of the year, when you really overhaul that defense and you get a quarterback upgrade in Matt Ryan, that's really not something to be proud of. And the Colts, they could have played a much better game. Jonathan Taylor had 31 carries for 161 yards. Michael Pittman had
31 carries is a ton.
Yeah. Michael Pittman had 9 receptions for 121 yards. I mean, Matt Ryan was 32 for 50 with 352 yards passing. Other people got to step up on this team. They can't be the only ones doing stuff. You got Davis Mills, who had 240 yards passing with 2 touchdowns, and was much more evenly split here. Rex Burkhead had 14 carries for 40 yards. Damian Pierce, the rookie, 11 carries for 33 yards. Brandon Cooks had 7 receptions for 82 yards. I mean, much more evenly split there. O.J. Howard had 2 touchdowns, but I mean, to tie in your first game with Matt Ryan and this improved team that supposedly is going to win your division, come on now.
I must say, and then we'll move on. I picked the Texans this game. I did it. That was my upset of the week. And while it didn't happen, you can't really say that they lost. So I'm happy.
Yeah, I would be happy with that too. Next game we got the Saints pulling out the 1-point victory over the Falcons. I expected them to win by a little more, but I mean, a win is a win. Michael Thomas looked great in his first game back. He only had 5 receptions, but he got 57 yards on those 5 receptions and 2 touchdowns, which is great to see. Taysom Hill had a rushing touchdown. That's fun. For the Falcons side, Mariota didn't have any touchdowns, but he also didn't have any interceptions. He had a rushing touchdown by Cordell Patterson. Actually, correction, Mariota did have a rushing touchdown, no passing touchdowns. But I mean,
the Saints
only opened the game recap on YouTube.
I like the Saints this year.
Yeah, I like the Saints this year. I feel like they could have won by a little bit more in their first game, but I mean, it's first game jitters with this new team. That's going to happen. Moving on, that's really all you got to say. Next game, we got the Ravens and the Jets. The Ravens easily took our business, it seems like, in New York, 24-9.
Yep, no Joe Flacco revenge game.
No Joe Flacco revenge game. He was 37 for 59 with 307 yards passing.
Which is so many attempts.
Yeah, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That is a lot of attempts. Wow, 59. Jeez. Lamar
60. Joe Burrow had 50 attempts. You just said Matt Ryan did. It was a heavy week for that.
From what it seems like, Lamar did not rush the ball that much. He had 6 carries for 17 yards, and on the passing side, 17 for 30, 213 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's a little bit more of what you like to see with Lamar. A lot of people calling him a running back with how much he likes to run the ball, but it didn't seem like he ran it that much in this game, which is good to see. Rashad Bateman had a nice touchdown, 2 touchdowns for Devin Duvernay. Mark Andrews had 5 receptions for 52 yards. It's a receiving core that I wasn't really sold on going into the year, but it seemed to play just fine against the New York Jets, and we'll see how they do going on in the season. Next game, we got the Jaguars losing to the Commanders. 28-22 was the final score. Trevor Lawrence had a touchdown and an interception. Carson Wentz looked good. Despite having 2 interceptions, he was 27 for 41 with 313 yards and 4 touchdowns passing. 2 of those being to Jahan Dotson, 1 being to Curtis Samuel, and 1 being to Terry McLaurin. It was a good start to his Commanders' tenure for Carson Wentz. And that's what you like to see. I like Carson Wentz. He's one of my more favorite players.
He's a good person.
Good person. Type of guy you like to see succeed. Yeah. Travis Etienne's first game kind of struggled. 4 carries for 47 yards. James Robinson got a little more production.
Etienne was... Apparently he dropped... I didn't watch this game very closely. Apparently he dropped 2 touchdowns in the end zone.
Oh, wow.
As I said in my stardom sit-em, just don't touch him in fantasy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a risk right now with him. We'll see how he can do in the future. Next game, moving into the 4 o'clock slate, we had the Vikings getting a big win over the Packers at home.
Love to see this.
I love to see it. I kind of saw this coming, to be honest with you. 23-7 was the final score. Aaron Rodgers, he didn't look terrible, but he didn't look great. He was 22 for 34, no touchdowns passing. He did throw an interception. A.J. Dillon had a rushing touchdown. That was the only touchdown Green Bay scored. As you can see, they only have 7 points. Jordan Love got some involvement. He was 4 for 5 for 65 yards. Kirk Cousins, 23 for 32 for 277 and 2 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson had a fantastic game. 9 receptions for 184 and 2 touchdowns. That's what you like to see from him. Maybe the offensive player of the year this year.
Could be.
Next game, this was a surprise, I'd say. I thought the Titans would win this game, but apparently I was wrong. The Giants, they got the win 21-20. The Titans missed a game-winning field goal. Daniel Jones was 17 for 21, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Tannehill didn't throw any interceptions. He had 266 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Was 20 for 33. Derrick Henry had 21 carries for 82 yards. It looks like the top receiver was a guy named Kyle Phillips. 6 receptions for 66 yards. Not a lot from Treylon Burks in his first game.
Yeah, I'm
and not a lot for Robert Woods at all. 1 reception for 13 yards.
Not very high on the Titans this year.
I'm not either.
I didn't really see this coming.
Yeah.
And it's not really a sign of good things to come. I know we have a friend who's a Titans fan. I'm not sure if he's going to listen to this. I hope he is. If you are, hello, Ryan.
Yes.
I would like to see the Titans perform much better than they performed this week going into the future. I just don't have any confidence in them anymore. Derrick Henry. Did you see the play where Derrick Henry got popped?
I did see that.
He got hit hard on one play. You never see that. That was interesting. So the Titans are an interestingly uninteresting team this year.
Yeah. But the performance you really want to talk about was 18 carries for 164 yards and a touchdown for Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley.
That is what you love
we
to
just
see.
love to see that.
And you don't even have to be a Penn State fan to cheer for Saquon.
You really don't.
That's the type of guy you just want to see do well, who's had to deal with injury for so long since he came to the NFL.
Not only injury, he's just had to deal with Daniel Jones and...
Yes, for sure.
Whatever else comes with that package.
But hey, it's good to see from that guy. Next game, we got the Raiders and the Chargers. The Chargers came away with the victory at SoFi, 24-19. Derek Carr did not look that great in this game. 295 yards passing. He had 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 3 interceptions. Devontae Adams in his first game back with Derek Carr. He had 10 receptions for 141 yards and 1 touchdown. Not that bad from the Raiders. On the other side, Justin Herbert, 279 yards for 3 touchdowns passing. You had DeAndre Carter catching a touchdown and Gerald Everett along with Alexander Horvath. Interesting. Eckler, 14 carries for 36 yards. I mean, just a good win for the Chargers at home. I guess the Raiders did not look that great against them. But the final Sunday 4 o'clock game we got to recap, and this was a blowout. Chiefs easily took care of business on the road, 44-21 over the Cardinals. Mahomes looked fantastic. 5 passing touchdowns.
Did not miss Tyreek Hill at all.
Yeah, I'd say it's safe to say he's going to be just fine without Tyreek Hill.
We like to see Juju Smith-Schuster got a little bit of volume.
6 receptions for 79 yards.
But that's a good game.
8 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown for Travis Kelce. You had Edwards-Helaire, 7-42. Isaiah Pacheco, I think that's how you say his name. 12 carries, 62 yards, and a touchdown on rushing. Not bad. On the other side, Kyler Murray had 2 touchdowns passing. Trace McSorley was 2 for 4 with 12 yards. He got a little bit of action.
Love Trace McSorley.
Kyler did rush a little bit too. We had a receiving touchdown by Marquise Brown, the Oklahoma connection. And then James Conner had a rushing touchdown. But yeah, Chiefs easily took care of business. And then for the final game to recap from Sunday, the Buccaneers easily beating the Cowboys 19-3 on Sunday night. Tom Brady had 212 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Dak Prescott, 134 yards passing with 1 interception before going down with injury. Hope he's okay.
Yeah, we wish him the best, obviously.
We wish him the best in his recovery. Cooper Rush was 7 for 13 with 64 yards when he had to take over. As I mentioned, no touchdowns for the Cowboys. But for the Buccaneers, there was only 1 touchdown, and that was by the man with the name of Mike Evans. 5 receptions, 71 yards, and the touchdown. So that does it for the Sunday recap. With that, to finish it off, let me go over my fantasy leaders of the week. How this works for Luke, since he doesn't know, he didn't do this last year. I give an honorable mention, which is basically the man just outside the 15, and I give the top 15 scorers of the week. So let's just run through that right now. For the honorable mention this week, in his performance against the Las Vegas Raiders with 23.26 points. We have Justin Herbert. And now let's hop right into the top 15. At number 15, with 24.72 points and a win over the Lions, Jalen Hurts at number 15. Number 14, with 25.5 points, also in a win against the Lions, we have his teammate, A.J. Brown.
Yep.
Good performance for A.J. And number 13, with 26.1 points and a win on the road against the Cardinals, we have Travis Kelce. Good performance for Kelce. Number 12, with 26.2 points and a win on the road against the Rams. This was back on Thursday night, Stephon Diggs. Number 11, 26.5 points and a loss at home against the Eagles. This is DeAndre Swift of the Lions, their running back. And number 10 and number 9, 27.1 and 27.5. We have a pair of Colts. We have Michael Pittman at number 10 and Jonathan Taylor at number 9.
I was surprised to see that Michael Pittman had such a good fantasy game, but he sure did. He was on my bench in at least 1 or 2 leagues. I'll have to rethink that going forward.
Yeah, me too. Number 8, we talked about this guy, 27.72 points in his first game with his new team, a win against the Jags. Carson Wentz coming in at number 8. Number 7, and a loss to the Steelers with 28.9 points. We have Jamar Chase for the Bengals.
Really, he had that good of a game.
He did. Yeah, he did. He picked it up eventually. At number 6, with 30.1 points in his first game with the Raiders, it was a loss to the Chargers, but nonetheless, Devontae Adams does come in at number 6. Number 5, this was back on Thursday night, 31.48 points for Josh Allen in a win against the Rams. Big win. Number 4 in a loss against the Bills. Had to recuperate for a second. With 31.8 points, just edging out Josh Allen, we have Cooper Kupp of the Rams on the other side of that Thursday night game. And now for our top 3. Number 3, 33.4 points in a win against the Titans, Saquon Barkley. I'm going to have to rethink possibly benching him next week. He is on one of my teams. And it's a 4-man league. So, yeah, that's why he was on the bench.
When I said I had Michael Pittman on the bench in like 1 or 2 leagues, I'm not crazy. We're just in 1 or 2 like 4-man leagues.
Yeah. We like to have fun when playing fantasy football.
Yeah,
number 2, with 34.9 points in a win against the Cardinals. Big performance for Patrick Mahomes. And for our number 1 player of the week, with 39.4, I believe it was, in a win against the Packers at home, the possible offensive player of the year this year, Justin Jefferson, is your top fantasy player of the week.
Who happened to have, I believe, 33 of those points in the first half, by the way.
Yes, yeah, he had a fantastic game. But with that, it's time for the final part of the show. As we approach an hour and 13 minutes recording. It might be the longest show we've ever had. But let's finish it off with the Monday Night Football prediction for tonight's big game. We have the Denver Broncos country, riding into Seattle to take on the Seahawks. It is Russell Wilson's return to Seattle. We won't get to see the Drew Lock revenge game, but Geno Smith is going to be at QB for the Seahawks. Yeah, unfortunately.
As if it was going to amount to anything.
Dante told me before he left that he is picking Denver to win this game. I'm going to agree with him. I don't think this is much of a debate. Give me the Broncos.
Broncos country.
Let's ride. Why don't we finish it out there on a good note? Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 1 of the Weekly Gridiron, which, as Luke said, yes, will be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you name it, it'll be on there. We'll get it out eventually. But thank you guys so much for listening to episode 1. This is Adam.
This has been Luke.
And in spirit, since he's not here, Dante. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next week. Peace.